Have you ever taken a photo and realized after the fact you didn't leave enough headroom? And if you want to print this as an 8 by 10, you find some really annoying things that happen, such as cropping, like this. The same problem happens when you post a vertical photo to Instagram. It automatically crops it to a 4 by 5 aspect ratio, which is the same ratio as an 8 by 10 print. And it's really annoying. Now, sure, I should have just photographed it better. I should have stepped back and left some more headroom, but we don't always have that luxury. So, as a last resort, I'm going to show you a little trick that we can do that will make everything fit into an 8 by 10 print or a 4 by 5 aspect ratio photo for Instagram. So the first thing you want to do is you want to go to your View menu, make sure that rulers are turned on and Snap is turned on. With your ruler, use your cursor tool, which is V, and click on the actual ruler and drag. You're going to see this vertical line over here, and it should automatically snap to the left side of the photo. Let it go, and you'll have a light blue line. That's called a guide. That will help us later to make an exact selection of the left area and of the right area of the photo and stretch it out to the left and right. We're going to do the same with the other side of the photo. So again, click on your vertical ruler on the left and drag and let go on the very right side of the photo. Now we're going to zoom in and we're going to draw another guide on the very left side of this boy's body, but without crossing over. So the farthest thing on his body to the left is this corner of his sleeve. His boot is close, but his sleeve is farther out. So let's click on the left ruler again and make a line there just outside of his shirt. Zoom out, go over here to mom, and the farthest thing to the right on her body is next to her elbow, her forearm. So click again and drag out here just outside of her arm. There we go. Now we can make an exact selection of this section and this section and stretch them out horizontally to fit an 8 by 10 size. So our next step is we're going to use the crop tool. So hit letter C on your keyboard, you'll get the crop tool. Now I have the 8 by 10 aspect ratio or 4 by 5 ratio selected here. And you can either drag the top up and the bottom down, or you can hold Alt on your keyboard, or Mac is going to be Option. Click on the top controller or control handle and drag up. When you hold Alt or Option, that allows you to scale from the center. So there we go. It automatically snapped to the top, which is because we have the snap option on, and hit Enter. Now we have these ugly white bars. What we're going to do next is go over to your toolbar and use the rectangular marquee tool and click on this top corner of this left selection and drag down, and we're going to draw a rectangle over this whole empty section of the photo. And now we're going to get out of the marquee tool by pressing the letter V, which is our cursor tool. If you have this checkbox, Show Transform Controls checked, you'll see little control handles on the corners and the sides of your selection. This allows us to transform it. Okay, so I'm going to grab the left control handle of this selection, and I have to hold Shift so I can drag it out to the left. If I don't hold Shift, this is what happens. Photoshop now automatically keeps everything proportional, which normally is awesome. But in some special cases like this, we don't want it to be proportionally stretched. So hold Shift and stretch it to the left, hit Enter. Now we're going to go back to our marquee tool, which is the letter M. You should automatically have the rectangular marquee selection tool selected. And we're going to do the same on the other side. Click on that top corner and drag down just to the right of mom. And again, our guides are there to make it an exact selection. So we're not guessing, we're not missing and having to redo it. The guide makes sure that it snaps exactly to the right spot. Okay, again, switch back to our cursor tool, V, which gives us the control bar handles on the sides. And click and hold Shift and drag it, and it should snap to the edge of the photo. See how it snaps exactly? That's what we want. That way there's no guessing and we're not missing any pixels. Okay, so we basically just stretched the left and right side of this photo. Now, yes, it does not look great, but honestly, if you printed it, the average person may not notice. And this photo was really tight. I didn't have a whole lot of space to grab and stretch. In other cases, I've had a little bit more leeway on either side, and it looks much better and not even noticeable, honestly. So there you have it. That is a last resort fix to making a photo fit an 8 by 10 print size or an Instagram vertical photo. Okay, in this next example, I'm going to show you a much more professional and clean way to do a photo scene expansion in order to fit a different aspect ratio. So here's my original photo that I want to print as an 8 by 10. And if I do that, I'm very, very limited. I'm right up against the edges, and I just don't think that's going to look great in a frame. It's just kind of weird. I want to see more, top and bottom. So what we're going to do is we're going to use a different photo to paint in the sides and give us more of a room. Grab the sides of that photo and paint it on top of this one. So next I'm going to drop on top of this photo the background photo that we're going to paint from. And that is photo 180. Okay, so here's the photo that we're going to use. Now I'm going to expand it holding Alt or Option on Mac. I'm going to drag it up and I'm going to try to match the scale of the background photo. So to do that, I'm going to hit number 5 to make it 50% transparent. And I actually got it pretty close my first try. Let's see. Yeah, down a little bit. Don't have to line them up exactly, but I do want it to be somewhat close. There we go. Okay, so I'm going to put it back to 100% opacity by hitting number 0. And let's get our crop set what we want. So here's our crop tool. I've already got 8x10 selected. I'm going to hold Alt and drag the top one up to about there. That's a much better crop, and maybe even move it over a little bit like that. And I'm going to expand my background image just a little bit to fit. There we go. So now we're ready to start masking away him and her to show the photo that's beneath. And we're going to leave the edges of the photo to overlay on top of this empty space on the bottom photo. So make sure your top layer is visible. I'm going to add a layer mask by hitting this rectangle with a circle button on the layer panel down here. Gives us this white square. Now whatever we paint black in that square is going to disappear. It's kind of like the eraser tool, but we can undo it and customize it. It's much more flexible than using the eraser tool, which I never ever use. So I'm going to use a very soft brush and set it to black by hitting X, which will invert your foreground and background colors to whatever they are. Those are flip-flop. Or you can hit the letter D to make sure they're white and black, and then X to invert that. So again, I've got a very soft black brush. I'm just going to paint over him and her and see what this looks like without doing anything special. Okay, so I can see the bottom of the background photo showing up right there. Okay, so this is our mask. The black blob is the part of this top photo that is gone, that is made invisible. The white part is still visible. So if I make the bottom layer invisible, now we can see this top layer is just the outer edges. And the bottom layer has not been really changed at all. So let's bring back the top layer by hitting that eyeball. I'm going to fix this bottom part first because that's the most obvious area that needs to be fixed. Single click on the mask. Now we can paint back in by using the color white, which is the opposite of what we painted earlier. I'm going to make my brush much smaller. And with a white brush, I'm painting back in. Make it even smaller to make sure I don't brush over mom's leg or his leg. There we go. Nice. So quick and dirty, it doesn't look that bad. But if you really look, you can kind of see some strange fading from, the top layer, which is fading on top of the bottom layer. And the background of the bottom layer is more blurred because I guess I was closer up, maybe different f-stop, but the top layer is much sharper. So we can fake a little bit of that by just adding some Gaussian blur to the top layer. Now this is kind of confusing because the top layer is actually, in this case, the background. I could flip the layers around to make it opposite, but I won't do that for this. So we'll filters, blur, Gaussian blur. And there we go. It's already matching a little bit. Looks like around 7 pixels of blur, 8-ish pixels of blur is what it actually has in the bottom photo. Cool. So the blur is matching now. It doesn't stand out as blurry to sharp. We do still have a little bit of a strange fading thing going on. And also down here, we can see the sharp ground with the blurry ground. So we've got some issues. Now we can get in very close to detail, depending on how detailed you want to get. And we can brush in, the blurry photo, which is the top layer. And without overlaying their body, we can get in real, there's her leg. You gotta be careful. There. You'll see the top layer come through if you're not careful. So if I do like this, that's her boot from the top layer. So we don't want to brush in that area. This is what's great about masking is you can undo it by flipping your colors backwards. Black, white, white, and black. And similar around their bodies, let's paint some white closer into their bodies, which is going to get less of that fade. We're getting rid of that strange fade area where it transitions from one photo to the other. Oh, we can't do that because her body's there, but that's okay. Very carefully. Oh, there's his head. Yeah, there's his head. There we go. To get to your mask view, you can alt click or option click your mask. And here we go. So you can see what I've done is basically I've just shrunk this down from the big black blob, doing the more specific body shape. Now I'm following the contours of their bodies in the original photo, but I'm masking in the top photo, which is the one with more background, basically. So here we go. I'm pretty much done. I can tell there's a difference in the brightness behind them. So I may want to actually darken my top layer, which again is my larger background. Let's see what that does. So Control M or Command M on Mac. And if I drag this curve down a little bit, let's see if we can match the brightness. Almost. That's pretty close. It's not exact. But you can play around with curves. Look at that. So that matches much better. You can tell the exposure was obviously very different. At least on the background it was. So that is a great way to match foreground and background, is with some curves. So that's good enough for me. So what we learned here is we used a larger photo with more background that was available to us. It was shot at the same angle, hopefully the same exposure settings, and ideally the same focus, which in this case it was not, but we made it work. And we painted the center of the photo away so that we could see the bottom photo, which did not have enough room, and we put it in an 8x10 frame, which is good for, of course, the print size and as well as Instagram portrait posts. All right, well, thanks for watching. I hope you learned something. If you have any questions or concerns, let me know in the comments. Thanks for watching.